Okay, let's do this. I've had my fill over the past few years of people selling models and standards and promising that quality will ensue. Doesn't work out. Promised quality rarely happens, and there are reasons for this. And I'd like to talk this evening as to why this is. After a brief introduction, I'd like to talk about understanding quality and what it means when I say that. I'll then speak about key standard groups of standards. There are too many standards and models in the world, so I'll be more generic, group them into general categories, talk about the benefits and the issues with them, a short section as to why standards fail to deliver, and finally some ideas on how to produce quality without them. First of all, who am I? Why am I speaking to you today? Why do I feel I have the right to express opinions on standards and qualities? Aside from being a chartered quality professional, I've been expressing opinions for many years, both privately and publicly. I've spoken to a number of international conferences as well as local ones. I've facilitated political debates. I've even preached in churches and lectured in universities, and I've been doing that for many years now. As an instructor, consultant, and coach, I've spent over 25 years analyzing businesses, identifying bad habits, and seeking to improve the quality of their work and their output. I've written 3 books. I'm working on an update to Orchestrated Knowledge, which is slightly outdated now, covers a number of my theories and principles. Also written 2 books about pragmatic and useful implementation of ISO standards. So I'm not against standards. I was brought up in English, French, and Dutch, married a German, worked internationally, speak several languages, and consider the study of languages as critical to understanding a culture and the understanding of culture to understanding quality. I have lived supposedly permanently in a number of countries and found each one to present a balance of better and worse. Through this, I've come to understand there is not one culture or nation that is better, as I can counter every complaint with a compliment and every positive with a negative. I have worked in countries around the world, covering every continent except South America and Antarctica. And in the past 45 years, I've worked in one capacity or another for a large variety of organizations, large and small, with very different objectives, cultures, practices, and problems, all aiming to achieve quality. I have used, understood, worked with, delivered, studied, been trained, been certified, trained others, audited, and even helped develop a significant number of standards, models, and frameworks. So I'm not opposed to them. They just have their limitations, and we need to understand that. So, let's first talk about quality. Understand what that concept means. Many people complain about it. Very few bother to try to understand or define what they mean by quality. It's critical. It's the most important thing in your business. The value of quality cannot be overstated. In today's global market, I can almost certainly find the same or very similar product or service as you are delivering. I can probably find it cheaper or more colorful or less noisy, whatever. What differences you from your competitors is the quality you can offer. Your quality is your trademark, your unique selling point, the thing that will attract prospects and retain customers. In this context, you may define quality in any way you want. You may decide you want to be the best, the cheapest, the first, whatever, as long as you decide what it is you are offering. Quality is important because quality is cheap. For a little additional work, you save a lot of time and money. I'm going to share with you a story here that Terry Pratchett wrote, explaining quality and economics. He wrote, "The reason that the rich were so rich," Vines reasoned, "was because they managed to spend less money. Take Boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50. but an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kinds of boots Vimes always bought and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was in Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that will still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while the poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have to spend hundreds of dollars on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This was Capital Samuel Vine's boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. Improve quality, reduce rework, increase customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, retain customers. Quality produces job satisfaction. That increases productivity and performance, as you retain your best people as well as your clients. If your team members are frustrated, they have to choose between doing a job for which they don't care or leaving to go somewhere that will allow them to grow and be satisfied. In my experience, happy people are in general more productive and more creative. This means that keeping your people happy at work is critically important for progressing and producing quality and satisfying your clients. So what is quality? If we need to define it, what is it actually? Well, it's not something that is intrinsic to your product or service. That is the challenge. It is the relationship your client has with your product or service. Quality is the relationship from your client to your product or service. In other words, quality is whatever your client says it is. That means in order to understand quality, you need to understand your client. Your client is the one who needs to define quality for you. Now, I'm always amazed at the number of people who cannot clearly tell me who are their client or even their stakeholders. You need to know this if you are going to determine the requirements and, more importantly, their expectations. Because it is only then that you can start meeting their requirements and potentially exceeding their expectations. This is what most people define as quality: meeting requirements, fit to purpose. Exceeding expectations seems to be the summit of quality. It isn't. You want to go further. You want to be able to anticipate your client's needs so that you can innovate, you can implement, you can create something that will bring your clients back to you. You want to gain their loyalty. Meeting clients' requirements is not quality. It is meeting your contractual obligations. You are required to do this. This is what you signed up for. Quality comes in the top half of the triangle when we are starting to truly deliver something special. Your clients are no longer looking at the competition because they know you are the market leader and they trust the value that you are adding to their world. So if you want to know if you're doing enough quality, do you feel you're adding value to your client's world? Traditional measurements of quality have all got some issues with them. So obviously quality needs to be clearly defined, understood, and expressed and monitored in quantifiable terms if you want to achieve any level of satisfaction. I frequently use this graphic. The logical circle goes from understanding your client's requirements to demonstrating the quality through a combination of quality factors and criteria. These quality factors and criteria, there are loads of them. They're all valid, they all work. But they're not sufficient, you see, because these are characteristics of quality. They are not quality. Another approach, traditional approach to quality based on Crosby's quality is free, is thinking of the cost of quality, making sure that you're investing time, money, and effort in doing the right thing. So I want to understand what is the cost of bad quality, what is the cost of good quality. I should point out as a sidebar here, side note, when planning a project, most projects focus on planning these activities. And then when they've gone over budget or over schedule, they find out that this is where they've been spending their time and money. Okay? You need to understand what you are trying to deliver. Then the cost of quality becomes valuable. That means you need to understand your users' needs. Not what they requested, but what do they actually need? How do they perceive the quality they cannot formulate? You need to understand what is their perception of quality. I like to go back to the definition of quality given by Vitruvius, a Roman architect 2,000 years ago, who defined three main components to quality, which was firmitatis, utilitatis, venustatis. Firmitatis, reliability. Your product needs to be reliable. The people who are using it need to be able to trust completely in the product and know that it will not cause errors or break down at key moments. Utilitatis, it needs to be useful. Okay? It fulfills a function that your clients need. It's the solution to a problem. It responds to a need. This is obviously where most businesses start up. The third one, venustatis, desirability. The most important probably is desirable. Potential customers need to want your product. They want to wait for the new versions. They want to trust that you have resolved problems that they haven't yet identified. There's something extra in your product that really impresses them. And so the combination of these three, laid out by Vitruvius in his volumes De Architectura, they were defined, also used to define ideal proportions, which is what led to Leonardo's well-known drawing of the proportions of man, according to Vitruvius, which I have used in order to create my concept of Vitruvian quality, which is a standard for management, which I'm not going to go into here. It's a different topic. Standards and models. Standards serve a purpose. They respond to a need, fall into a few categories that I'd like to quickly cover right now. So the purpose of a standard, you want your customers to receive the same level of quality. You want them to know that when they buy a product from you, that they're going to get the same quality that they expected. The same, you expect items that that you are buying correspond to known criteria. Children's toys do not use lead paint. Chairs will not collapse suddenly. Your new car is roadworthy. You want those standards there somehow. Know that someone has independently verified to protect you and make sure your investment is safe. But then they outlive their need. The problem has been solved. The extra controls remain in place, and it becomes a divide and conquer principle. Frederick Taylor used this because he thought workers cannot be trusted, and he wanted to enforce standardizing practices in obedience, believing this would encourage profitability. It's the form of bureaucracy and is based on a relatively simple paradigm which states that people are factors of production and you want to maximize production by reducing variance. Therefore, you're going to create stratification, specialization, formalization, standardization, put out processes that set out goals, resource allocation, performance assessment, and compensation. Your practices include targets and key performance indicators and tracking progress and measuring compliance to finally come to the conclusion that performance means alignment and control. Alignment and control together give you profitability. People are just interchangeable parts in a production chain who need to be controlled or they won't perform properly. What if you changed your starting point? What if your paradigm stated that people you hire are independent, intelligent, creative beings that offer added value to your system? They're unique combinations of experience, knowledge, talents, and skills. Each individual is a potential to bring something unique and different. What if you considered engineers as people who have proven their intelligence and know how to build something correctly, understanding the difference between what is needed and what is beauty? How would you change things? I've grouped standards into three basic groups: minimum set of practices, continual improvement, guaranteed practices. The minimum set of practices, ISO and others, establish minimum qualitative requirements for different types of products and services and activities. It's the ultimate marketing tool, which is most frequently required within various industries. So you need to be ISO compliant in order to satisfy your customers. The continual improvement models are models that allow your organization to be audited, appraised, assessed at a given level, which supposedly tells your clients what level of professional understanding and practices you have in place on your production and delivery services. And finally, they're the best practices models that promise you success and high quality if you follow the instructions carefully. I am excluding from my standards a number of frameworks that seek to guide and help you in different circumstances. These are not based on being certified or audited, but on education in a technique, structure, or approach. Okay? I'm not talking about these because these are not to be satisfied, they are to be used. The biggest benefit from models and standards is the reassurance they give your clients and prospects that an independent authority has looked at your practices and your products to decide you are fulfilling recognized industry expectations. But they fail. What's wrong with them? The biggest issue with standards is the commercial aspect that gets attached to them. And this commercial failure happens in 4 phases. First of all, we've got the success story. Practice, principle, control, process, whatever is implemented. The authors believe this is a good way of working. They define it a little bit better. implement a similar approach in a second organization. The management consultant teams up with a public relations specialist to formalize the approach, and few success stories are repeated as proof of success. They start actively promoting the approach. They write the book. They give the TED Talk. They create the website. They start talking their system up. And then auditors start measuring how well you satisfy the standard. Consultants become aware they can help you implement it in a way that will satisfy the auditor. Consultants and auditors are trained in the standard, but have never actually done the work themselves. They've never been under client pressure. They've never had to do the work and answer unreasonable management demands. They start selling the product to maintain their employment, to maintain their lifestyle. And they start pushing for compliance to the standard rather than using the standard as a tool to achieve quality. And they continue pushing this without ever producing real metrics that prove the solution actually works. Six Sigma promotes metrics and statistics, but keeps on referring back to their two great success stories, General Electric and Motorola. Both companies have largely fallen away since they implemented Six Sigma. And so we're putting the horse before the cart. You need to satisfy the auditor at the expense of your customer. And satisfying the auditor requires an enormous effort and investment leading up to the day of the audit that you pass, maybe with flying colors. But the effort to achieve that is too much. So as soon as the auditor leaves the building, the practices get abandoned with a sigh of relief. I have even seen businesses that spend more time and money falsifying and backdating documents before an audit than it would have taken to do it correctly throughout the year. The standard pushes you towards standardization. Creativity and innovation are discouraging. Remain average is the key word. Don't change things. Stay in the bell curve. Average is good. And as a consequence, the results are not apparent to customers. They don't see you as any better than your competitors. The standard is seen by your staff as being additional work and bureaucracy. The standard, the model, instead of helping you, ends up causing more work. George Box's famous quote, "All models are wrong, some are useful." Getting help from the consultant who is going to help you achieve what they believe is your objective sounds like a good idea, except when you find out afterwards you might have satisfied the standard, the letter of the law, but it doesn't actually help you in your business. So, what's the solution? Is there a solution? We've got all these standards, all these models, all these ways of doing things. Should we just throw them out? Should we just get rid of them, clean sweep? Or should we use them intelligently? Ask yourself, why was this included in the model? Why is this important? Am I doing this in a different way? Is this an activity that is critical to my business? Can I justify to an auditor why I am doing this correctly for my business, even if it's not what the standard says I should be doing? And so we come to focus on making a difference. That's the other way out. And number one, define the job you're trying to do. Assist and support the people who are doing the work. Structure your approach. Organize yourself. manage your team, and most importantly, lead your team. So let me explain this. The job to be done. It might surprise you to know that there is a world of difference between what your clients are buying and what you are selling. You need to understand this. Your clients want to buy this, you are selling this. Okay? That's a big difference. You need to understand how these fit together. The principle of parsimony, attributed to William of Ockham and often referred to as Occam's razor, is unfortunately often restated as the simple solution is usually the best. That's not what it says. It says entities should not be multiplied without necessity. You should be able to focus on what is important, what is critical. For that I like Toyota's A3 coaching methodology, which brings onto one sheet of paper, an A3 size sheet of paper, everything you need in order to change the way you are doing things, from stating the problem to the list of activities to the follow-up controls. By implementing this systematically, it brings it down to defining, improving your approach by bringing it down to simple elements. There's no room for side issues. Okay? The purpose of quality is to satisfy the client. That is what matters most. The model you're using is far removed from that objective. It's a good combination of people, process, and technology is critical, but more specifically, the people are the ones producing the work. Process and technology are only there to support the people. If they don't support the people, it is wrong. I do process definition workshops, and I always get the people who are doing the work to define it as a team. What is it that you're trying to achieve? What are the controls and measurements you will put in place to ensure yourself that you are achieving the results? It's based on the traditional Sherwood-Deming cycle as it evolved over time. I'm not going to go through and explain the Deming Wheel or the Plan, Do, Check Act or the Plan, Do, Study Act approaches, how they build up on one another. The SAP-DO, the iteration I personally recommend, involves preliminary studies of goals and targets, as well as education and training before deployment. Different words combinations can be included. They all build on one another. The most important is that you are continuously learning and continually improving the way things are being done. A concept that is often made more difficult by trying to respect a standard or a model rather than change. Many organizations end up looking something like this. The same problem. A tiny minority of people in the business are doing what the client actually wants, building widgets, writing software code, and most of the organization appears to be focused on trying to control these engineers and tell them how to do their job. When you are at the bottom of the pyramid, decisions can take weeks as they rise through the layers to the top and come back, by which time misunderstanding and misinterpretation has led to mistakes. You want to build a structure in which the people can work together, solve their own problems, focus on identifying the issues with the job they know best, and work on solving them. You want to design your business, your culture, your process, your organization. And by design, I don't mean just create a sheet. It is a spiral. It is a spiral in which you have got a number of steps that you have to follow. You got to understand the question you're trying to answer, challenge and critique, perform risk identification, prioritization, create your goals, your plan, do the work, start creating a response, control, measure, compare, analyze the results and the progress so that you can start again with understanding what it is you're trying to solve. You want to design the culture that you need. Identify the culture you expect in your organization. That means looking at the cultural aspects that are important. Many cultural desires are contradictory and incompatible. You cannot have staff that are expected to respect standards and challenge and continually improve the way we do things. Defining this is important because it identifies your values, it identifies what you actually stand for. You need to design the organization around communication and participation. Of course, you're going to need specialists and accountants and salespeople and engineers. Make sure they know and understand their boundaries and accountability levels. Focus on building collaboration and cooperation at every level so that the individuals can make real-time decisions that benefit the team, and the team can become a winner through teamwork by every level, at every level, and every team player can celebrate the victory of their team. Encourage innovation, imagination. A lack of innovation means that you accept to be compared, taken over, or replaced by automation. Innovation means you need to let people be curious and learn from their mistakes. And that means an environment that does not blame you for failing. Listen and encourage people to speak up. Give them clear understanding of the way to proceed, help the organization move forwards. This spider chart is one I use when measuring cultural aspects in organization. It rapidly helps identify key weakness areas. Bring in people who will challenge you and have different experiences. Encourage them to speak up and to challenge management. Too many organizations focus on team spirit, in which everyone has the same redundant knowledge and fits nicely into doing things. Create a team of rebels, where people have got a different experience, different practices, different ideas. Netflix, according to the CEO, Reed Hastings, has succeeded because you should be doing your research, making your own decision without having to ask permission. Measurements and controls are put in place in order to help, not in order to control individuals, but in order to directly support your customers' expectations. Quality depends on your people, not on your audits, metrics, standards, models, or anything. It is the people who do it. If you manage people, you need to support your team, encourage your team to be proud of their work. That is what is important. Your role as a manager is to satisfy the innate desire people have to take pride in the value of their work. And lead. Leadership is about motivation, not management. Leadership works if you act the way you expect your team members to act. Leadership means going the distance with the team, carrying the load, protecting, guiding, and inspiring them to go further. Like a Sherpa climbing a mountain in the Himalayas, you are expected to do your share of the work on top of guiding it. I'll leave you with this quote from the former CEO of Svenska Handelsbanken. If you really believe that customer satisfaction is the main reason for achieving superior results, you have to eliminate any kind of steering mechanism that could push your employees to do something that is not in the interest of your customers. If you would like to continue the conversation, I am happy to be there for you. You can reach me at bit.ly/OKLet'sTalk or at orchestratedknowledge.com or by telephone, email, or on LinkedIn or wherever. Okay, I am there for you and I am happy to help answer any questions you might have. Thank you.